So with the sports power shop, we've been doing it, my brother and I, for the last 38 years. So obviously, being in the firearms industry plus the sporting industry, we have a lot to do with the farming population of this area. I also run a small farm myself. I'm going to turn off 1,000 or so prime lambs every year, and one of the biggest problems we have is always the fox population. So a lot of people spend a lot of time chasing them, and they do a lot of damage to lambs, and also to ewes that get down. They tend to cause damage to them too. So they're just a terrible pest for this area. And being involved in the shop here, especially the shooting department, we hear all sorts of stories from different people who come in with all the amounts of foxes that are actually out there, and all the hunting doesn't seem to deter the amount of them. So it's an ongoing problem every year, and it's certainly it's got harder because farmers now have to do a lot of that work themselves. So even though they do a lot of hunts together, a lot of the night work is actually done by farmers under their own steam. So yeah.
What sort of damages have you encountered yourself in terms of stock losses and things?
Well, certainly with the lamb losses, the foxes, if you happen to get a really bad one, he'll just kill for the sake of killing, and he could kill a number over a period of time. So they will kill and just take portions of it, and they just do a lot of damage. Instead of taking the food they need, and they just kill. So it's certainly so it is bad, and I think every farmer's got the problem. And when stock are worth a lot of money, like the last couple of years, prime lambs are up to $200 to $250. It's come back a bit now, but so there's a lot of money involved. So
the economic losses to individual farmers are pretty high, depending on the amount of pest animals and the amount of sheep that obviously got.
Yeah, well, certainly it's hard to gauge the actual losses yourself, but certainly for a farmer like smaller farmer like myself, you can lose up to 10% if you're not on the job. So every year we have a major hunt, which we have about 10 or 12 people do the hunt, all the rivers and all that sort of country, to try and get as many before we start lambing. You still have issues after that. So, but the economic loss is sometimes you don't know, because they can cut things away. So to exactly count how many, unless you see them doing it, it is hard to see.
If you're losing that every year, it's hard to put a baseline figure on what zero foxes would be, what the bigger for zero.
Yeah, well, I think it can depend on the area. If you're very close to blue gums, or some national parks, or where there's a lot of rough country, a lot of creeks and stuff, it can cause more damage. It also depends on, some farmers don't do as much as they probably should. So some people leave it to everybody else, but it's a community type thing that majority of people should actually try and do something about. Yeah. We all leave it to the last minute, to be truthful. Yeah.
And you're getting the same thing from all your customers and that sort of thing, like that. What's the same that's happening with you guys is happening with the majority of the customers that have got.
Well, everybody would have the same problem every year. It doesn't matter whether you're in fine wool or prime lambs. It's all a loss to you. And then of course there's also the environment that the foxes do huge damage to, and people don't realise that, but they do. So
the environment in terms
of just small mammals and animals. They will kill the bush rat type things. So there's a lot of animals out there that are, in Australia, becoming very marginal as far as being extinct. So it's important that you try and control the foxes who are doing all the damage. So it's not only it is a loss to the farming community, but it's also to the whole community.
Yeah. And what forms of control have you guys used on your farm?
Well, in the past, the control is always, you have hunts during the day, then you have to spotlight. So I've been spotlighting most of my life, and since the thermals have arrived, we only shoot the dumb ones, I can assure you. The ones that are really the cunning ones, the ones that are doing the damage, you don't even get a look at. So,
how have you found it since you've started selling thermals in the shop, obviously to customers, and then you're using yourself on your own property?
Well, the majority of farmers, and there's a lot of stories come from a lot of farmers, because we have sold a lot of thermals over the last 12, 18 months. Every farmer has come back with a story that they have shooting twice as many foxes as they would normally have shot, and some even more. So So that's been a huge impact from us. Yeah, it is amazing. So
really good, and they actually notice, like, obviously the price have been pretty good the last couple of years, sort of thing. But besides that, in terms of actual lambing rates and that sort of thing, you're noticing an increase there and an increase in the bottom line.
Yeah, I probably haven't got any figures on that to be truthful. But obviously, you've only got to save 10 or 12 lambs, and you save 2,000 or 3,000 pretty quick. So
price of a thermal scope.
Yeah, well, I think with a thermal scope, I guess the initial cost is always something, but it's the ongoing farming practice that you're going to have that's going to save you money. And the other thing is the time factor. You can drive around trying to trace a rogue fox for night after night after night, and some of the conditions at the moment we've got is very wet and cold. You can go out with a thermal and you're out there for a very short time, and you can detect what's on your place very quickly. And take care of it. So, and I think time for people is pretty important. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. And obviously you're getting back at a more reasonable hour, getting to bed a bit earlier, bit better sleep, sort of thing.
And probably keeps the bride happy too, that you're sitting by with her, not chasing foxes every night. So, so it's certainly a time factor which is worth money to people. And you can get the job done quickly and pick up a lot more foxes and pick up the dangerous ones. That's what you got to remember. It's the ones some foxes don't do a lot of damage, but there are some who do an enormous amount. So, yeah.
No, that's excellent. Well, thank you very much.
No worries. That's fine. That's okay.
And, if you're down in Hamilton and you're looking to buy a thermal scope, come into Quinn Sports Power, and they're the ones to come and see and talk to James, who's very knowledgeable about thermal scopes, using them himself, and also talking to many of the customers in the area.